Okay, we're going to start now. I have some couple of lines already marked out here, so I'm going to do a quick explanation of the lines. The first line that I have here is my shoulder line. It's just like my startup line, and then from my shoulder to my bust line is 10 inches. This is my bust line, and then this is my waist line, which is 17 inches. That's from shoulder to the waist. And then my hip line is 27 inches, and then my full length is 40, and then I added 2 inches for my sewing allowance. I'm going to, okay, I added 2 inches for the allowance. You will notice, even though this dress is an A-line, but I'm not folding it on the A-line form, I'm folding it on the straight form, because I really do not want it to be too, the A-lineness to be too very obvious. So now I'm going to create an A-line on this straight pattern by giving it a slant on the side. So with that, I'll still be able to achieve what I want to achieve. And you'll see my pattern paper. I have one pattern paper here. I'm going to use this for both the back and the front. For the back piece, I'm going to add a zipper to it. For the back piece, I'll add a zipper. So when I'm transferring to the fabric, I'll add about 2 inches to create the back and piece. So that's just that. So let's just get started. The first measurement that I'm going to be imputing is my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 7 inches, which is 14. When you divide 14 into 2, you have 7 inches. This is 7 inches. And then I added 2 inches, for my allowance. So from that line, I just came down by 8 inches. This is 8 inches. This part I'm going to use as my armhole part. I just mark it like this, and then I'll curve it out with my pattern curve like this. Then the next measurement I'm going to impute now is my bust measurement. Normally my bust I would use 36 inches. When you divide 36 into 4, you have 9 inches. This is 9. But because it is not a fitted dress, I'm going to add as much. For the bust part of my dress, I'm going to add as much as 3.5 inches allowance, or even 4 inches. I could add 4 inches allowance to it. 4 inches is okay. And then the next measurement that I have is my waistline measurement. My waist normally is 36 inches that I would use, and for this is 36 inches, which is also a 9. But for this waistline part, I'm going to add about 5 inches allowance to this part, because I want it slanted. You understand? Because I want it slanted. So that's just like basically the essence. And then for my hip line part, my hip is 40 inches. When you divide 40 into 4, you have 10. This is my 10 inches. For the hip part, I would add as much as 6 inches allowance. It depends on how wide you want it to be, because I don't want it fitted. So I will add, so from this part, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to add as much as 6 inches allowance to this part. You see what I'm trying to get? You see the A-lineness is coming out, even though my pattern paper is straight. This is usually good if you are using this pattern. This method is usually good if you don't have fabric that is really big that will create that triangle for you. Use this pattern, it works perfectly well. So the down, I told you initially, I said the down I'm using 15 inches. This is my 15 inches. And then I'm going to add 1 inch or 2 inch allowance to it also. So with this now, you see our dress, the A-line is formed. So I'm going to mark it out now. I'm going to transfer, and the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to transfer this pattern to my fabric, and then we'll continue with the fabric. So I'll put the neckline and then show you how to cut the collar and other things. I'm going to add a pocket. I'm going to add pockets to this dress. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to notch where I'm going to attach and the pocket, so I don't mess it all up. On my pocket, I'm going to attach from 15 inches from my shoulder, just a little a bit above. You could decide to bring it down, but most times I prefer it this way. I really don't like pockets that will be too down. The next thing we're going to do now is just to insert the neckline. So for the neckline, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to this point like this. I'll mark out 3 inches width, and then I'm going to use 1 inch or 1.5 inch depth for the front. So for the back, I'm just going to maintain the back like this, and then I'll use 1 inch for the depth for the back neckline. I'm going to cut it out now, and then I'm going to slope my shoulder. You use 1 inch to slope. Now we're done. I'm going to open up the back piece, and then I'll show you how we're going to join them together. And notch on the zipper part so you know where to join. So here's my dress. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go and join on the back and the front together before we come back and cut out the collar. It's always better that way. So with that, you'll be able to get on the neckline, you get it out properly. So we'll join the shoulder and shoulder together. The back, you're just going to stitch the shoulder like this together, stitch this side, and then I'll run the side seam. So you could decide to add a lining to this if you want to. For me, I'm not adding a lining, I'm just going to stitch like so. I'll do that and then come back and cut out the collar. It's really, and this ready to wear inspired dress is really simple. Okay guys, I'm joined on the shoulder line, so I've covered my on the zipper allowance side, so I just ran a stitch. I've stitched the neckline. The next thing is for me to stitch my side seam. So before I do that, I'm going to cut out a pocket that I'm going to attach to it. So I'll show you how to do that right now. In cutting out pocket, I'm going to cut out 4 pieces. I'm going to make use of this. It's just like the simplest and easiest way of cutting out pocket. I'm just trying to fold it, and then you are going to determine how deep you want the pocket to be. So I'm going to use about 9 inches depth, so my hand will enter into it properly. So 9 or 10 inches is okay. And then I'm just going to curve this part like this, and then I'll measure this part. So 6 inches is okay. So I'll cut it out now. I'll just cut it into 4 pieces. So here's what I'm going to do now before I run my side stitch. So this was where I notched that I was going to attach on my pocket. I actually used 16 inches to make that notch. So when folding your fabric, I think I forgot to mention it. When folding your fabric, you use the biggest part of your measurement to fold, which mine is the down part. So I folded mine at 15 inches. I just and I now added 1 inch to it. That's 16 inches. So that's what I use to fold out on my fabric. Depends on how wide you want the A-lineness to be. That's what you will use. So I'm going to take this piece like this 2 pieces. I'm going to, this is the right side of my fabric. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this is the slimmer part. From this part like this, I'm going to stitch here like this. I'm going to stitch it, and so after stitching, it's going to be like this. And then I'm going to take this part also. This is the right side. I'm going to place it like this on this side also. So after stitch, I'm going to stitch it. I'm going to stitch it like this. From this is the right side, right side. So that's just what you are going to basically use, right side, right side. I'm going to stitch like this also. So after stitching, I'm going to have something like this. So after stitching from the inside, it's going to be like this. And then I'm going to go and start, I'm going to stitch the side. In stitching the side, I'm going to use 1/2 inch from my armhole line like this. I'm going to stitch like this, come like this. I'll just take the round part of my pocket and then I'll bring it down. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back and cut out our collar. So I hope you understand what I did. It's really simple. I hope you got it. Okay, welcome back. I finished stitching the dress together. So the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to cut out the collar. I'm going to make it as simple as easy. If you don't know how to cut a collar before, I guarantee you that after this class you should be able to cut a collar. Simple and easy. Let's just get started. So I have some materials here that I'm going to use. This is a hair stay, and then this is soft gum. These are interfacing, so you could use any interfacing of your choice, because it's not a standing collar, so you really don't need the strong stay. This is the fabric that I'm going to use. I'm first of all going to draft it out on this pattern paper, just to make it easier for you to understand. In doing this, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to measure out the neckline. This is the neckline. So I just opened this part where I'm going to add my zipper. I just opened it out a bit, and here is the notch that I put. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to this is my notched part, so that's where I'm going to start measuring from. So you are just going to take your tape and then you measure around like so. So at the end of the day, I have 17 inches. That 17 inches, I'm going to add 1 inch to it. That 1 inch is going to serve as my allowance. I'll add 1 inch to it, so that's 18 inches. And that 18 inches, because my collar, I'm going to cut out 2 collar. 18 inches, when you divide 18 into 2, you have 9 inches. So 1 collar is going to be 9. That's when it's straightened out. It's going to be 9 inches. So now we're going to measure out our collar. Now in measuring, I'm still going to fold it because I don't want to cut it out straight like this. So in order to get it perfectly well, that 1 collar, I'm going to fold it into 2, and then I'll divide it 9 into 2. That's 4.5 again. So you see the division. So you should take note of that. I'll divide it into 2. The 9 into 2, which is 4.5. This is 4.5. So my allowance is already included here. This is my 4.5. So I'm just going to mark it out and straight. I'll just cut it out straight. Okay, so this is my 4.5. So the next thing you are going to determine now, you are going to determine the width of your collar, how high you want it to be. So mine, I'm going to be making use of about 5 inches width. That's the length. That's from this point. It's going to be 5 inches. Or I could make it 5.5. So after stitching, everything will fall back to 5 inches. But normally, if you want a moderate collar, I'll advise you do 4 inches or even 3.5. Depends on how wide. Me, I want bold collar. So from this point, this is my 4.5 point. I'm a little bit out of my marker. I'm going to mark how protruded I want my collar to be. So this is 4.5. I think I'm going to do 6 inches here. So I'm going to place my ruler like this. I'm just going to connect to this point like this. So I'll just use my biro. I hope you could see it. So this is 6 inches. So you could do any width of your choice. And then from this 6 inches, I'm going to mark it to this 4.5 inches point. I'm just going to just create a slant like this. So this is my slant. So this part, I don't want it this part, I want this part, I don't want it so straight. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take my pattern curve like this. I'm going to place like this. You could see what I'm doing. Just place it at the slant, bringing this point to like 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to connect it to this point like this. So with this now, the top part is not entirely straight. So I'll cut it out now for you to see. So at the end of the day, you see what I have. This is just like the easiest way of you cutting out a collar. You see this part, this is the straight part, and then this side, this top part is curved. That's this part, that's the part that will be on this side. So what I'm going to do now with this, I'm going to cut out 4 pieces of this, because the collar, you know, is in 2s. So I'm going to cut out 4 pieces because we're going to sew and turn, and then I'm going to cut out my interfacing that I'm going to gum on it, because it is not a strong, a standing collar. So you are going to need and just like soft, you could use a soft gum, or you use your hair stay to turn it. So I'm going to cut it out right now. Okay, I've finished ironing my interfacing. So what I'm going to do now, take it to my machine, and then I'm going to go and stitch it round like so. I'm going to stitch like this, and then come back and show you how to attach it. So I'll do the same thing to this one also. Okay, welcome back, guys. So you could see my collar. I finished ironing. So, and the easiest way for you to fix this collar, we're not using any collar stand. So you're just going to take it like this. It's better for you to start stitching stitch it from behind. So you are going to stitch, since it is a bold and collar, it will cover the rough edges, will be hidden inside it. Here's what we are going to do. You're just going to take from the back. We are going to stitch it from, okay, I'm just trying as much to get okay, this is the inside of the back, the wrong side. So you're just going to take one part of your collar like this, and then this is the notch part. You are going to start stitching just from this exact point like so. You're going to stitch. So I'll just use pins to indicate it for you. You stitch along the neckline. It's good for you to start stitching from the back. And then when you get to the front, you are going to stop like this, and then you take the next collar also. You start stitching from the inside also like this, because at the end of the day, after stitching, it's going to fall out like this. So you see what we are going to have. It's going to fall out like this. So the rough edge is going to be inside. So since it is bold, so it actually covers everything, the roughness, it covers it inside. And then this one also, you stitch from this point also. You are going to stitch it from the inside. Please just take note, you stitch it from the inside. You stitch it from the inside like this, and then when you get to this point, it's just going to fall out like so. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch it. So before then, that's what I'm going to go and do. And then the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut out the sleeve. So you could see the sleeve is just like basically a straight sleeve. Okay, for the sleeve, I'm just going to use my sleeve pattern to cut out a basic sleeve. So the down part of the sleeve, something like this was actually attached to it. Something like a tiny, just like a tiny A-line. It's actually not a flame. It was actually attached at the down part of the sleeve. So I'm going to show you how to cut. So on this basic sleeve, I'm going to drop the link of how to cut this basic sleeve. So I'm going to cut the down one. That's this attachment. It's just something like I said, like I just explained to you. I'm going to cut it now, and then you could do any sleeve of your choice. So it's not necessarily you must do this sleeve. So you could do any sleeve of your choice. So like most times when I copy dresses from the internet to make, I usually don't make it exactly, unless at times when I'm teaching, you see I'll make it the same, but at times you see I still add some twist to it. I really don't like I copy A to make B. It's not creative. That's just the truth. I copy A to make B is not really creative. So you should add twists and turns to your designs. So for this part, it's just like something like an A-line. So you're just going to fold your fabric or your pattern paper like this into two, and then you use the width of this parts. So it depends on the width that you are using. So I'm just going to use I'm just going to use what I have here, which is 4.5. I'm just going to assume that that's the width of what I have here. This is the 4.5, or let me just use 4 inches. This is 4 inches. Marker. So you are going to determine how long you want it to be. That's the length. So what we have here is 4 inches. Is okay. So from this point, you are just going to slant it. Depends on how wide you want it to be. You are just going to slant it. So my marker is so done. So you're just going to slant it like so, and then you cut out. And then you cut out. So at the end of the day, here's what you are going to have. You are going to have something like this. So you can decide to, if you want to use elastic or whatever to, if you want to use elastic or like another fabric to hold it in place, you can decide to just increase the width. And at the end of the day, here's what you are going to have. You are going to have something like this attached to it. So just attached to the down part of the sleeve. It's not like a really big deal of a sleeve. So that's just what I'm going to try and cut out now. If I still decide to change my mind, I can decide to change my mind and make any sleeve of my choice. So that's most times when I sew, I usually do that. I'll just change at the center of it. I can just switch. Okay, so let me just cut out now. And then once I cut it out, I'll go and stitch my collar, and then I'll attach the sleeve and show you the final look. So this part you could decide to use just add a bias binding, just like what is on the picture, just to demarcate those points. So that's that. Okay guys, this is the final look of our ready to wear inspired dress gown with both colors. So you see the color. So at the end of the day, this is how the inside will look like. All you are going to do is just, and you could use an overlock seam to do that. And then when you are fixing, you see how I placed it. You just place one a little bit by 1/4 of an inch. Just place it on top of each other. That's it. So you see the sleeve. So guys, the pocket, everything is just so perfect. Thank you so much. If you find it helpful, subscribe. Thank you.